I'm going to talk about technology, and I'm going to try to get people feeling better about technology than we do about healthcare, which shouldn't be very hard to do. So I made a big decision in 2012, and that decision was I was going to quit waiting for new normal, that we are in new normal, and we have to quit thinking that the world is going to get better. Mike, is it really going to get better? Yeah, sure. He actually said, yeah, sure. We know what that means. So I think we're dead into new normal, and we have to think about the world in that fashion. And technology is playing a really important part in how that is all happening. I want to give you some pretty basic examples. This is a little bit of a remember when discussion. So do you remember when you actually had to go to a bank to make a deposit? Right? Now you can take out your smartphone, take a picture of the check, and the money is in your account. Right? Remember when. Remember when you actually had to be home to set your thermostat. Right? Remember when you had to be home to turn on your alarm. Right? Things are changing. Remember when you actually had to look for an address as opposed to seeing projection mapping of polo players at Ralph Lauren's headquarters. Right? The world is changing. You can now download an application onto your phone, point it at a metro station in the UK, and it will give you schedules and updates on what's going on. You don't have to pick up the phone to find out what's actually happening. And Google is working on a technology called Google Glass that will come out in 2014, where you can basically wear a pair of glasses or sunglasses, and using heads-up technology, you can just look at things and you can see what a subway schedule is, or you can find out that a subway is late, or you can dictate texts. You can do all kinds of things in a much more efficient and productive fashion, as Mike was talking about earlier. And this is just the start. How many people have a flip phone today? That's what I thought. As recently as 2008, 60% of the United States, people in the United States carried a flip phone. Only 20% of the population carried a candy bar-shaped phone. How many people have a candy bar-shaped phone today? Right? Virtually all of us, right? iPhone, Android, Samsung Galaxy, whatever it is you have. I do find it interesting, however, that the more technology advances, the more devices I have hanging off my belt. Maybe that's just me. How many people have an iPhone in the room, just for context? How many people have Siri? How many people have had Siri yell at you? So Siri, which was developed by the Stanford Research Institute, hence the name, all right, it was funny to me, I'm an accountant, hence the name Siri, is now working on a project called Lola. And Lola is a personal virtual banking assistant. So you can talk to your smartphone, and Lola will move money around or do whatever it is you want to have done. Right? Technology really is changing rapidly. From my standpoint, there are a couple of trends that I think are really important from a business perspective. And the first one, because I couldn't come up with a better name, if you put smart in anything, it's really good. So I came up with smart infrastructure. Right, this is a little bit like the field of dreams metaphor. If you build it, they will come. So the first important trend is around connectivity. Now, I asked how many people have an iPhone, so I won't do that again. But I know personally, I get really frustrated if I can't get connectivity somewhere. We have this increased expectation that connectivity is available everywhere. Now, if you've I should be careful with this. I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble by my colleagues. I'm a trustee at the museum, and I love the Calatrava. It's a wonderful building, but I have a hard time with Wi-Fi. in that building. Right? I shouldn't care, right? It's a work of art, and yet connectivity is so important. And we all want connectivity to be faster, right? It's got to be faster all the time. Well, Google Fiber is a technology that has been developed by you-know-who, right? And this is the high-speed Wi-Fi access that they've given to a couple of cities, one in Mountain View, one in, interestingly, Kansas City. Right? It's 100 times faster than the broadband that you have in your home. 100 times faster. You can get crystal clear HD. Now imagine what it means if consumers can access content in that fashion. Or if we as business people can access the fattest PowerPoint presentation ever, right, in moments. Right? It starts to change everything. The second part of that infrastructure is devices. There are 1,000 mobile phones activated per minute around the world. 1,000 mobile phones per minute around the world. The iPhone was introduced in June of 2007. This year, Apple expects to sell over 190 million iPhones. How many people have a tablet of some kind? So the tablet was introduced on April the 3rd, 2010. I personally believe the tablet was a solution looking for a problem at the time. Now 40% of our energy in new innovation is focused on tablet. There are 100 million tablets live in the US today. Apple expects to sell 100 million tablets in 2013. If your business is not tablet friendly, you have a big problem. Because that will be one of the things people will think about when they're thinking about doing business with you or they're considering coming to work for you. Do you use that kind of technology within your structure? And then third around this infrastructure is around applications. I won't ask how many people have applications, because I know we all do. In fact, there are so many applications that have been downloaded at the iTunes store alone that every man, woman, and child in the world would have 5 applications. 35 billion applications to date. That's really important, not because of the number of applications, but because of the ubiquity of application distribution. If you remember back when, you used to actually only be able to get software at a store. You actually had to walk into a store and buy it. Then you could buy software online. But in order to do that, you actually had to convince retailers to carry your software. Today, if you're a 6th grader in California named Thomas Suarez, you can actually create an application for less than $100, put it out on the iTunes store, and you can in fact have a game where you play whack-a-mole with Justin Bieber's face. I'm totally serious. It's called Bustin' Jeeber. It's 99 cents. Go out, buy it, give the kid a break. But that's what's going on. Right? All of these applications are being created, whether they're around productivity or games or fun. Right? All of these applications, right, are changing the way we think about the world and actually taking some of our mind share away from things that we would have otherwise been doing. This infrastructure, this infrastructure has now created a bit of a human intelligence network that operates in a completely different way. The second thing that has led to, and I actually think this is the most important thing that we have to consider from a business perspective, is the impact on consumers. Right? We have a far more empowered consumer today than we ever had. And I don't mean just the consumers that buy things. I mean the consumers that work for us. I mean those consumers that we happen to create technology for financial institutions. And we've had to get away from creating technology for financial institutions as opposed to creating technology for those people who work at the financial institutions. Because the expectations that they have are very different today. One of the most interesting trends out there right now is called showrooming, which is a little bit what you can see on this image here. People walk into stores, decide what they want, and then take a picture of that QR code with their phone and find out how cheap they can get it somewhere else. How many people have actually done that? You could admit it. Right, go into Best Buy, I see it all the time. Right, and it's happening constantly. Right, so basically, the larger retailers are creating virtual showrooms for the people on the internet. And they haven't quite figured out how to create a toll system. Can you imagine a time where the Costco membership model changes? Right, today you can't get into Costco without a membership. Maybe all retailers will require that. Right, you have to pay a toll to get in. Right, it's a whole different world out there. We hear a lot about the fact that there are millions and millions and millions and now billions of folks on Facebook. I think there's about 1.2 billion users on Facebook today. To me, that's staggering. Since I have no friends, I don't actually understand how that works. But evidently, the average person has about 81 friends or something like that. There are 170 million U.S. Facebook users. Right? Virtually half the population. Why does that matter? It matters because but whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or any, right, we're all reporters now. Right, we're all reporting what's going on, and that has a very, very important impact on business. Something around 60% of people who use social media write reviews for products. That's a big number. But worse than that, or better than that if you're actually the reader of the review, 92% of the social media users believe those reviews. That's a lot of power. We had the opportunity to do an acquisition earlier this week. It was a rather large acquisition for us. And I actually I should be careful about this too, I cared a little bit less about what was written in the traditional press than I did about what was crossing the social media outlets. Because that's real time. And it's being spread, right, at the speed of light. And it's quite an interesting, for me, it was a very, first time we've done an acquisition of scale where social media was right at the center of it. We actually now have hired people that their full-time job, and I'm sure others have this, is to just monitor social media. So we are actually contributing to a decline in the unemployment rate. But the empowered consumer has real power. Right, there are a couple of examples over the last couple of years, whether it's the debit card issues that Bank of America had. Verizon decided they were going to charge people to pay their bill online. That was gone in a weekend. You probably heard about the pink slime. Right, lots of examples of how consumers are coming together to take advantage of this new power. And I believe that smart infrastructure has created a scenario where we have got to pay attention to what's going on and how consumers feel about our technology, how they feel about the experiences that they're getting and how they're using that technology. And to me, those two trends really say the business models that we have known forever are gone. One of the things that many of us had to learn in this most recent difficult economic period was that the solutions that we had come to rely on were no longer reliable. And what's going on in the technology world with the new infrastructure that's been built and the ability to share things instantaneously is that the ability for us to just go back to what we've always known is for the most part gone. And that requires us to think about the world where the barriers that used to exist don't. You know, you go back to the social media example a little bit. President Obama announced his campaign announced on October 17th, he had his largest fundraising day ever. That was the day after the second debate. So even in politics, right, you have to be technologically savvy. In the 2008 campaign, he raised over $500 million, $500 million online. 6.5 million contributions were less than $100. Right, so how people engage in everything has been changed by technology. How we use that in our businesses or in our lives, as Mike was talking about being overseas. Right? One of the things that I find intriguing as I have opportunities, it's so weird to say this, to talk to younger people as they come in, right? They're far smarter than I was, maybe not everyone else in the room, but far smarter in terms of their ability to consume massive amounts of information. They may not have all the relationship skills that many of us built our lives on, but fundamentally the skills that are being required are consuming massive amounts of information and trying to figure out what's important. And they're going to decide what's important. We are not. And that makes management and the hierarchy around management even more challenging. One of the things I think a lot about in running Fiserv is where will our new competition come from? Right, I worry about it coming from overseas, and I worry about much larger companies who want to come in and encroach upon our space. But interestingly, I find a lot less of my time consumed by that than I do about really thinking about, the old HP founder story, right? A couple of guys in a garage. Right? I really believe that's where the challenges to the business models that we have known the most, where they're actually going to come from. I don't think it's going to be from the traditional competitors. I really do think we're at a time when we have to embrace this new technology. We have to embrace the power that consumers have and the experiences that we have to deliver for our employees and our clients have become very different. It scares me a little bit that Lady Gaga has more followers than the population of the UK and Barack Obama. Right? That a video called Gangnam Style has been viewed on YouTube, and I have seen it, 1.2 billion times. 1.2 billion times. Consumers are choosing what they're going to do, and we in business have to decide what that means to our business models. Is anyone on Twitter? Speaking of Twitter, remember when Twitter came out? It was clunky. It was foolish. Heck, it only allowed you. It only allows you 140 characters. And yet, Twitter has contributed to governments being overthrown. Right? I mean, that tells you how much the world is changing. And it tells you, at least it tells me, that it's time to embrace that change. When it comes to innovation, I don't actually have an answer. I don't actually think there is an answer, except for getting awfully close to what's going on out there. Most of the solutions are not complex. They're relatively simple. Some of the greatest innovation, right, is quite simple. The Apple iPhone, which will largely go down, in my opinion, as the most innovative device what I will have seen in my lifetime, right, was not that complicated. Right? It was a fairly simple idea that Apple brought together in an elegant way. And I think that's where we'll see a lot of the innovation actually occur. We really do have to skate to where the puck is in fact going. I do think there are quite exciting times. I actually feel there is far more opportunity than risk if we can decide to embrace the new technology paradigm. I hate to use that word, but I couldn't think of a better one. I really do believe that this is normal. I actually think normal could get a little bit worse. It could get a little bit better. but it's not going to be like it was back in 2007. And if it is, think how much more before 2007, think how much better prepared we will be. Dan didn't actually ask me to make any predictions. He's smarter than that. But I have one. I really do believe that we will exit 2013, notwithstanding some of the difficulty that we have to deal with, that we in Wisconsin and the country will exit 2013 far stronger than we're starting the year, and that's because of all the great people like you who are making a difference every day. Thank you very much.